Get off the ambulance. Yeah, people have it.
Yeah. That's good. 6 o'clock, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. First item will be roll call.
Brown,
Here.
Todd,
Here.
Davis,
Here.
Turkey,
Here.
Grace,
Here.
Nick.
Here.
Pledge of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Everyone can take a moment of silence that's comfortable with that. Make a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Everyone's had a chance to look over those previous meetings minutes. No corrections, they'll stand approved as presented. Announce the visitors page. Dennis is here. Will do the training man.
Chinese restaurant. Ready?
Yep. So we got a short little demonstration, maybe 5 minutes or so of our mannequin. We're still working out how exactly to get the most out of this thing. So Justin's been spending a lot of time learning all through quick scenarios so you guys can kind of see how it works in action.
Hal, introduce yourself.
He's Hal. I hope you enjoy the simulation.
Sorry, it was muffled a little bit. I got pillows kind of propped up behind him, so the sound was muffled. But basically, he was telling you his name's Hal.
Hal, I want to thank you.
Yeah, it's having a little problems because of all that. Basically, he's saying thank you guys for giving him a new home. He's really liked it here, except for he's been kind of abused and beat up on for the last couple of weeks. So the mannequin itself is fully functional. It is running. We're still learning exactly how to run all the programming. We've got the basic stuff down. We're going to give you a little demonstration tonight of what it can do. I'm going to be out here kind of narrating, if you will. It's going to simulate a real call as close to possible. Okay, so this is a 55-year-old male patient. Again, his name's Hal. He's having chest pain. So ambulance has been called. The ambulance is en route. And you guys are getting on scene now, okay?
What's going on today? Okay, how long has your chest been hurting for? Okay, some vitals on here real quick. Does your chest pain radiate anywhere?
Yeah, I think I left over.
Okay, how would you rate your pain? On a scale of 0 to 10, 0 being no pain, 10 being worst pain. Wait, do you have any allergies? Do you have any kind of past medical problems?
Yes, I had a heart attack here.
Okay, are you on any medications right now?
So what they're doing now is interviewing him, trying to get a medical history and figuring out what's going
Alright, so I
on.
know there's a lot of stuff going on right now.
He's having
There's
chest
some
pain right
vitals
now.
on
They're
there.
trying to
We're
gauge
about
the
to-
intensity of it.
Stay still for me for a minute, we need a picture of your heart.
As you can see, the blue markers on his face indicate lack of oxygen. We call it cyanosis. So that should indicate right away that there's an issue with breathing.
Do you take aspirin every day?
Yes, I think I can take one day.
The cardiac monitor, they're going to get ready to do an advanced EKG tracing.
Okay, hold real still for me, okay, I'll take a picture of your heart.
Again, the advantages of using our own equipment is amazing. I mean, it's just, you can't beat that. We're actually training with the equipment that we would use out there.
How would you compare this pain to the heart attack you had last year?
It feels close to the worst of
One quick picture just to kind of confirm everything, okay?
my heart was all
Well, I see some changes on here, that's why I'm gonna take another picture just to make sure, all right?
right. Okay, starting to get a vomit and get really itchy.
Okay. Just a second here. All right, sir, it looks like you're having a heart attack, okay? We're gonna go ahead and get you to our stretcher, all right?
Yeah, no pulsing, stop breathing, looks like he's in deep fib. Go ahead and-
Then charge.
Yeah. So unfortunately, this patient was simulating cardiac arrest in this patient.
All right, clear. All right, shock delivered.
Resume. Let's start an IV. And this for 1 milligram of epi.
So again, the patient unfortunately went into cardiac arrest, went into ventricular fibrillation, which is a shockable rhythm. So we immediately defibrillated him and started CPR. So they will do this for roughly 2 minutes. And they will then check a rhythm again. Right now they're starting an IV to give medications and going to put it in advanced airway. And as you can see here with this, I can now monitor several different things in regard to effectiveness of CPR. So over here, we have the compression rate and the recoil, okay? So we can evaluate and record how how they're doing, and we can debrief after that to kind of either add suggestions or kind of talk about that. So this is also keeping a virtual log here of everything that's going on. As you can, it's hard to see here, but it detected chest compressions and automatically started logging what time we started and as well as what time they finished. It also records how long we're off the chest, which is one thing that we really watch, not fall. So we want to minimize time off the chest. Compressions are the most important thing. Anything more than 6 or 7 seconds is really unacceptable. And when you're really doing this in real life, you don't really think about that. Again, this kind of, why we practice real scenarios. So we could point that out after and say, hey, you're off the chest at one point for 12 seconds. We need to do better at that. Or, hey, great job.
Yeah. All right, let's go ahead and stop and check the pulse. We have a pulse,
Random check.
no pulse. It'll be good. Okay. Go ahead and charge 200. Resume CPR until we get started.
Clear. Stop. Resume.
Push 1 milligram Vevy.
Good CO2 reading, 45. It's like real life, isn't it? So you can see the waveform here. This was the additional option that we purchased here. It's this waveform right here, the CO2, exhale CO2. So we can tell how well we are ventilating that patient right now by just looking at that waveform. When he squeezes in the bag, that squeezes air into the lungs and air exhales through the cartridge in the left leg. It gives us a reading. It also gives us a waveform again. We're able to tell a whole lot of different things about that. It's been 2 minutes.
Okay.
Pulse rhythm check. All right, so he's in a 3rd-degree block, so we're gonna go ahead and pace.
So at this point, after they're on a CPR, they check for a pulse. They do have a pulse and they have a really slow rhythm rate on the monitor. So what they're going to do right now is attempt to pace the patient to get that heart rate. What that basically does is try to keep the heart rate up. It's a pacemaker, but not like the one you think about, right? Not the one that's installed internal. This is an external pacer. So it functions the same. As you can see, for pacing right now, kick that heart rate up. So they're going to check to make sure that that captured.
So the pulse.
They should have a pulse with that rate at the same rate.
All right, we go ahead and transfer to Buffalo.
Let Buffalo know we're coming on the postcode.
I think you're done.
I was used to it, trust me. So kind of a little taste. It's a really brief scenario, just to give you guys kind of an idea of how we train. There's literally, and I apologize for the volume on the speech. Again, he got muffled because he was sitting up there, but it's so nice to just interview him as a real patient. You can walk up to him and ask him questions, and you're going to get that real feedback in time instead of saying, "Hey, sir, can you hear me? Are you hurting?" You then have to turn to your evaluator or whoever's getting the scenario and wait for that information. It's real time, and it's helped us out tremendously. We were able to identify at least four or five different things that already have made us more efficient in regards to the ventilators, and also with capnography, waveform monitoring. So, and that's only been, what, 2 weeks, and we're still learning. It's a wonderful tool. In case you guys are curious, wait how back up if you want to. You want to make sure he's all right. He is. So this is the intraosseous leg, the IOs. If you're unable to get a vein in the periphery anywhere, on a cardiac arrest, we will look to see if we can get an IV. But if we cannot get an IV, we don't poke around and try. We go straight to a drill into this bone right here in the leg, and it literally goes into the marrow there. So these are all. This is not filled with fluid right now, but we have the capability of filling this with fluid. They will stick the drill in there. They will aspirate blood. Hook an IV line up to actually run the IV line. This thing will take and receive all medications that we give, and we have done that and tested that out thoroughly. So everything is as advertised. And this is the actual CO2 cartridge right here. If you guys, kind of hard to see, it won't come out really any further than that. But literally these things we get at Bike Store, Amazon. And they're fairly cheap. So one of these will last probably an hour of doing what we were doing. And I don't know the price on them, but they're really reasonable. Box of 20 of them. Not too expensive.
Well, thank you guys, I appreciate it. Now we know he's a little slippery too. I saw him kind of edge his way up there.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen in real life.
What's the top left monitor, the top left reading on the monitor? That number kept going from like 82 to.
Heart rate.
Yeah, and it's gonna show you wacky things, especially with fibrillation and CPR, so it bounces all over the place.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, literally, you guys seen what it can do. I mean, anything that we want it to do. And we didn't even show you nearly half of the stuff. As far as surgical price, actually the IV start here. You can fill this up with blood. You can fill the chest wall up with blood and simulate a pneumothorax. Actually hook the tube up and draw the blood out. So
I was just gonna ask
anything.
who all you got with you.
I'm sorry, I should have already introduced. This is Christopher Bogus. He's a field training officer for us. This is Jacob White, paramedic. Regina, I also butchered Mikowski. Sorry, I can never say that. This is Brooklyn Grace, an EMT with us. So I appreciate them coming over here. They're on duty and they've been running like crazy. So I appreciate you guys taking time to come over here and help me out with that.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
If there's any questions that you guys have for me, I know it's kind of a brief and it's really fast. Everything kind of goes pretty quick. So I take everything for granted. I know what they're doing, but if you guys have any questions about the mannequin itself or software, hardware, anything. All right.
All right.
Thank you very much, guys.
Public comment. There was one sent past the deadline at the last meeting. We'll read it this meeting. Mr. Nail has it.
Subject is board member training. It's a question from John Fritz. I would like to know if Kim Graves or Adam Cox attended the Missouri Ambulance Association board member training held at the Lodge of the Four Seasons on June 28 and 29. If not, have they completed their training online? If not, could they explain why or when they will complete their board training requirements under Missouri statute 190.053?
Speaking strictly for myself, I will complete that training as soon as I can get to one of those sessions following my painting season, which would be probably November or December. If not then, January or February or March, but prior to my 1 year window of opportunity.
And we did reply that both people are in compliance with state statute currently, so.
Just one day, I'm sorry.
Okay.
It's okay. I'll continue to send board notifications out when those classes come available, whether you need them or not. And of course, we track whether you have them. So if you do need them, we'll remind you at that time.
And if we take it again, is there a charge? We have to pay for that?
Yes, there's actually an advanced class. Once you've gone to the regular class, you go to advanced, and they talk a lot deeper into the particular issues. It changes every time. Or you can just take a refresher on the regular class, and it is an additional charge.
$100?
I think it's 150. I'm pretty sure.
It varies on what the class is, where it is, if it's online, if it's in
Yeah.
person.
Generally, it's around that range.
It was 175 last year.
They sponsor with, not only the fees, but they use those fees to provide the class, to pay instructors, and it's also sponsored by vendors, Stryker, Image Trends, and the bigger vendors. That's all. Thank you.
Move on to the officers report, the chief's report.
Was unexpectedly out of the office all week last week, so I did not get a report in the packet. Hopefully everybody's got a copy of that, and I'll go through the high points here. Did everybody get? Okay, thank you, Katie, for doing that. Call volume through the 31st of July is on the very back page. As far as actual volume, we were about 5 short of our busiest month ever. As far as total transports, that is our busiest month ever. So we set a record in July as far as total number of transports, both here and at Windsor. So you can see those numbers are up quite a bit. Don't anticipate that to taper off anytime soon. It's typically been our busiest month of the year, so I'm sure the crew would tell you they've been sweating it out there quite a bit, so they have been running a lot. No other big surprises on there. We did have a little bit of increase on invalid call numbers from dispatch. There's some trainees down there too, so that's to be expected. Nothing major. Only a couple flights out of let's see. Yes, 3 for PCAD, and there was 1 in Windsor. So a little more than usual, but nothing extraordinarily nothing out of normal. We did have 2 status level 0 events in Sedalia that Windsor came up and covered, and 16 down in Windsor that was covered by a Sedalia truck. Typically, we're not going all the way down there. So they'll go out of service for a short amount of time, and we'll either head that way or stage. No calls were missed, no delays were caused by either of those events. We were able to cover everything ourselves. Any questions on call volume for the month? Okay. Back to page 1, the new ambulance, new AV ambulance, unit 1. It's not officially unit 1 yet, but it will be unit 1. Is sitting out back. So if anybody wants to come take a look at that, I think we could just reserve some time after the meeting if anybody wants to do it once we've adjourned. I had the crews bring on over so you can pop your head inside and look around and kind of show you what's what in there. So it's a nice looking truck. Unit 11, that's the truck that went out for repair. The last ETA we got on that, the most recent is going to be the end of August, possibly the first week in September, right around that time. Part of the reason for that is the damage was a little more extensive, and they've had to go back to the insurance company and kind of talk about what they can do to fix that. But it's still a ways out. Let's see. Got an issue with the air handler collector pans, I believe is the correct term for those. Out at Station 2, apparently when installed, they didn't put a waterproof pan underneath them. It's just a metal pan, and the seams weren't clogged or anything. And there was no shutoff switch in case they did fill up with water. So when the thing condensed, it leaked out of the pans, and it had been running into the ceiling. As you can see the pictures on page 2 there, came down through the ceiling. That's right below where those other pictures are, directly beneath it, and popped a nice little hole in the ceiling. The drywall repair is not going to be any big deal. There is some electrical, but that line you can see there to the left of that picture, the lower right, is that's the actual AC line itself, so we can shut it off and do any sort of drywall repairs we need to in-house. And I'm waiting estimates on repair of that. We're probably looking around, if we put a waterproof pan under each of the handlers, they'll have to come out and be reinstalled on top of those pans. And then put the emergency shut-off switch in there, which I think would be a very good idea. It would have been in the first place. We're looking at probably south of 1,000, no, less than 1,000 to do the whole thing, the whole repair. But I'll keep the board posted with whatever I get in the way of estimates as far as repairing and fixing prep parts on those. Like I said, the actual drywall stuff, we should be able to take care of that ourselves.
Would you review the cause again, please?
The pans that go under, the way I understand it, I'm certainly not an HVAC expert, but the way I understand it is when you have an air handler, though, sometimes they sweat and condense and leak. And there's a drain plug that goes through there, and I guess it gets a little gunked up. From what I understand, those plugs actually were kind of gunked up and the water backed up when it drained into the pan beneath it that normally would catch it. The pan wasn't sealed. It's just, you can see it's just a folded, galvanized sheet metal there and just leaked out the corners under the top of the mezzanine and then ran down through the ceiling. It was just an install.
It will happen. It will happen again if it's not monitored.
Yeah.
Because I know a guy whose basement carpet was wet for, he thought he had a leak and he didn't. It was his air conditioner.
Yeah.
In his own house, and a hanger fixed it. Just one plunge.
To unplug the hole, yeah.
So guess what? He checks all the time.
The mezzanine didn't have stairs built into it. We've got push around staircase up, one of those push around stair things out there. And we do keep some overstock shelving units and just, it's not somewhere we're at often. And I don't know how long it had been leaking, but yeah, I think it would be a good idea to at least, I think the bulk of the expense is going to be getting the handlers moved up and put pans underneath, and the switches aren't anything fantastically expensive. But that's where I'm at. And like I said, I'll update the board as costs come in and figure out how much that costs to fix that issue. The Sandman obviously was an agenda item that's still in progress. Justin's still learning the little nuance of it, but it is a pretty slick device to see him be able to actually run a call. What you didn't see was Jacob in the background, Jacob White on the headphones back there, kind of doing the narration of the mannequin. And again, when you're doing scenarios with just a small group of people, he's a lot easier to hear rather than this booming room, because they're all close and they could hear him just fine. But we can control that volume as well. Like I said, we're still learning. Education, other items this month, we're doing BLS and geriatric education for EMS or gyms, and there's just a short description of that in my report. We've done gyms before. I believe we do it annually, and the certification is a 2-year. Is that correct, Justin?
I think it's 4 years.
4 years.
For recently hired.
Okay, yeah. Typically, we've got enough people that need it every year. We teach it fairly regularly. So, let's see. One's agenda item. We did have, unfortunately, one EMT resignation today. That individual was going to school for some other stuff, not EMS things, and is moving out of state. So we're really sad to see her go. But she did turn in her resignation today for that. She gave a proper notice. So we will need to look at hiring a full-time replacement EMT for her. I believe that is the end of my report.
Any questions for her? Yeah. How old is that building out there?
It's out of warranty.
Yeah, I know that.
I believe we started operations down there in 2016, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, or springtime of 2016. Yeah.
Any other questions? Now we'll move on to CFO report.
Have the bills this time. The summary's on page 4 and the details are behind, as well as the credit card statements. Any questions on any of that?
Yeah. Are those 6 parkas added into the existing inventory, or are we starting a collection? Are they shared by the crews, just put it made available? How does that work?
So
Are we talking about the bill for those?
I'm talking about the parkers, yeah, $300 a piece, just made me wonder, because I couldn't find a Carhartt over 200, and I didn't know what made these special, or if we were adding to, we were gonna buy 18 more.
They're actually a two-part, they're a two-piece, they have a jacket liner that can be worn on the inside, so there could be a year-round type thing, and they're also, we have to meet the ANSI specs on them, which is a safety specification on the jackets.
Are they shared, or that each employee gets one?
We issue them to the staff as they come on board, and they return them as they leave. Yes, so they can be reused, correct. They have a Velcro patch for names, can be taken off and reused somewhere else, repurposed.
One more then. The catalytic converter, was that stolen or just damaged?
Just went bad.
Just went bad, okay.
Yeah, that hasn't been common. A lot of that's probably idle time, if I had to guess.
Questions on the bills? Take a motion to approve payment of the outstanding bills. Yes, second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Unfinished business, gov deals auction.
Deals, portable radios, they've been there for a while. We relisted those prior to our last meeting. They closed this afternoon, slightly after 5. And it looks as though they may have sold for $3,250, but with what we had happen last time, there's no guarantee of payment yet. So until we get payment in hand, I don't think there's much else we can.
No guarantee.
Yeah, but they did sell today, so we're hoping that goes through this time.
And how much was that?
3,250.
There's quite a few bidders on those others, so even if we do have something fall through, there should be some close to that.
Any other questions on the gov deals? Now we'll move on to purchase of land for Station 3 construction site. We talked about that a few times, availability at 3 acres there near the roundabout. And it's at the point that we can kind of negotiate a location. What we were looking for was approval for Eric and I to negotiate, find that location and bring it all back to the board for approval.
Well, this, where we put it, is that gonna be the land of the state fair or State Fair Community College?
Yeah, it's some of that land that was just purchased.
Which one of them?
The college gets land on the north side.
So we'll be negotiating with the college.
Yes.
The negotiation, is that just location? Because they.
Yeah. And they're open to that negotiation. They're aware that we're supposed to get that. And it's just a matter of agreeing on the spot.
Yeah, there's still some questions everybody has about, where roads are gonna go, what they're gonna use, where they're going. So, obviously, we want to be on that area there, so we have the optimal response times and not on the back 40. So
Kind of on that corner is what you're thinking.
somewhere around there. Yeah, there's kind of a low spot we probably want to stay out of, but just
Honestly, they're thinking that road probably won't go south from the
that's
roundabout.
Are you thinking that you want to be on 16th Street or on the road that they're gonna put in?
Yes. It just depends on how long that road ends up being. That's the one thing I want to definitely avoid is having to build a long driveway and or cause delays getting out of there. So, yeah, that's the best of both worlds would probably be on 16th. Yeah.
Do you think in the next 20 years, 16th Street will be widened significantly?
That is not a question I could answer. I would almost imagine that it would.
Anyway, before I cited it.
Judging by the rest of town and how we've had to really squeeze in some things when it came to highway expansion, I would highly anticipate.
I thought maybe somebody knew something on long range planning for.
Yeah.
The only 2 lanes not gonna cut it for long.
No, the only thing I'm aware of right now that is going to affect this, and that's one of the reasons we need to go negotiate, and maybe not negotiate, but just kind of discover. This is the way I understand it, that there's some plans to close off a road over there during a fair, I believe, Clarendon, but I'm not gonna speak for the city or the Missouri State Fair, but there's some issues about closing that road off and where we'll be able to gain access. So that's one of the variables we need to talk to them about. But yes, I would, like I said, I know that's.
I know you didn't want a long driveway, but let's make it a long enough driveway.
Yes. Yeah, indeed. Yeah, well, I've lived in Pettis County my whole life, and I've always seen that we have a knack for not getting enough room for the roads in the first place, so especially along 65 highway, Lemon Avenue, that's always been an issue. We're maxed out, so yeah, definitely keep it back enough. For sure.
Well, I'd like to put forward a motion to allow you to negotiate the position or.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second that.
Is there any further discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Since we have no new business, are there any announcements?
I did want to mention, if anybody does make it out to the fairgrounds, Roy dove in tonight. They're opening tomorrow, I believe, at 6 p.m. is when they actually start their operations out there. So if you get out to the fairgrounds, go by and say hi to all those guys, volunteer firefighters, EMTs and paramedics. They'd love to have you and say hello. That's all.
Any further discussion on the Mozart Music Festival, our involvement?
Nothing yet. No.
So we're not out, but we're not in.
Any other announcements? If not, I'll take a motion to adjourn the meeting. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.